Regional School District. I'll do that again. Welcome to the North Middlesex Regional School District School Committee meeting, October 21st, 2026. It is 6:03, and this meeting is being recorded. For roll call, we have Keenan, Francois.
Here.
Randy Rush.
Here.
Alexander Bancuti.
Here.
Lisa Bloom.
Here.
And for administration, we have Robin Ivy, Kevin Comier, Gary Reese, or Dr. Reese, Brad Morgan, and Jeremy Hammond. All right. We'll come back to the executive session. Can we jump to the consent agenda? And we'll approve that. The minutes for the finance are not in the packet, so we won't approve those. And was everybody able to look at the September 16th minutes? I know that Robin had sent out a email. Randy.
Yeah, I did get a chance to take a look at the September 16th minutes. It was on the late side. I had 3 minor changes to it.
Okay. Do you want?
I mean,
do you want it? Yeah.
Yeah. The 3 minor changes were on I think it was the following the procedures. It listed MASC Alicia Mellon. It should be Mallon, Mallon, not Mellon. And then on the one moment. Legislative advocacy. It was, hold on one second. Under the into the first sentence, it says no direct advocacy with committee vote. It should be without committee vote. And then under the under the community outreach for the Townsend, it reads that Keenan and I were requesting from Townsend, and I wanted it to just reflect that we were asked by Kim to request that from the town. It wasn't something that we brought forward.
Okay.
I can make those updates, no problem. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Robin. Anyone else have anything? All right. Can I take a motion to approve the consent agenda with those corrections?
I will move to approve the consent agenda, removing October 2nd, 2025 finance minutes and the minor changes to the September 16th, 2025 school committee minutes.
I'll second.
Right. It was Randy and Keenan with a second. Randy?
Yes.
Lisa?
Yes.
Keenan?
Yes.
Alexander?
Yes.
And myself, yes. All right. Would somebody want to read the executive session?
I will move that the school committee meet in executive session pursuant to Massachusetts General Laws, Chapter 30A, Section 21A for the following purpose. Purpose 2, to conduct strategy sessions in preparation for negotiations with non-union personnel or to conduct collective bargaining sessions or contract negotiations with non-union personnel, superintendent of schools.
Do I have a second?
Second.
Okay, we got Randy as the motion's read and Keenan with the second. Sorry, Lisa.
That's
All right.
okay.
We'll take a vote. Keenan.
Yes.
Randy.
Yes.
Lisa.
Yes.
Alexander.
Yes.
And myself is yes. We'll be going into executive session for about 20 to 30 minutes so that the public knows. If everyone wants to jump over to the Google Meet, that would be great. Thank you.
Lisa, can we just ask members
Yep.
to log out of this meeting? So that there's no mistakes made. So log out of this meeting and into the Google.
All right. Kim has her hand up, but we're going into the Google. All right.
Lisa, our student representative Natalie Stupek has been
Okay.
promoted as a panelist, just letting you
All
know.
right. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, we did approve the consent agenda. Robin, is everyone back on?
We just need to do a roll call.
Excuse me, Lisa.
Okay.
I also
Yes.
looks like in the waiting room or in the attendees is Nancy Haynes and Kim Craven.
Yeah,
Okay.
I promoted Nancy. Hold on.
I'm seeing Alex Bancuti too.
Yep, I promoted him too, so I think it's just taken a few minutes for it to come through. If anybody else is in there and you could raise your hand, it will bring you to the top and then I can see you. Thank you.
Madam Chair, can I just make a suggestion?
Yes.
Can we, I think it might be prudent, I don't know if we have Mr. Jamar here as well, actually, no, it's a different section, never mind. But I
Okay.
think we might want to just move a little bit out of order, just so we can, our guest here, Natalie, just so she can do her report and then let her have her
Yes.
night.
Yes, we will. I have to take roll call and then we'll allow Natalie to do her report and then we'll go back to the agenda and do public communications, if that's okay with everyone. All right. Is Jackie White in yet? Or Carla?
Carla might be in the attendee side.
If Carla, if you're in the attendees, could you please raise your hand so that I can make sure to promote you? Thank you. And I know that Jackie was having some technical difficulties joining.
There's Carla.
Previously to the executive session.
All right. Well, I'm going to take roll call and then
Okay.
we'll get Jackie on.
Okay.
Keenan Francois,
Here.
Randy Rush,
Here.
Alexander Bancuti,
Here.
Kim Craven,
Here.
Lisa Bloom,
Here.
Carla Lima,
Here.
and myself, Lisa Martin, here. Natalie, let's jump to, if everybody's okay, we'll jump to Natalie to have her do her student report for us. Go ahead, Natalie.
Okay. Okay. So for the student council and class officers, the one big thing is that we have Spirit Week the week of the 27th through the 31st. And then the Powder Puff game is coming up on the 28th. And then the honor societies, so NHS, Rho Kappa, and Tri-M, have all been having induction ceremonies. I think the last one is tonight for Rho Kappa. And then sports, the fall seasons are like starting to wind down a little bit, and then a lot of them have done their senior nights. And then service learning groups are doing like their respective fundraisers. And then for like the drama department, they will have a production of like Our Town on November 13th and 14th. And that's kind of all that I had.
Thank you, Natalie. All right, then you can go, Natalie, if anyone wants to say anything. Everyone's good? Thank you, Natalie.
Thanks, Natalie.
Okay,
All
thank you,
right.
everyone. Have a good night.
Yes, going back to public communications. Did we have any public communications
I
tonight?
had two people signed up for it, but I don't see them as attendees.
I know at least one of them is going to come to the next meeting.
Oh,
Okay.
to the next meeting. All right.
Yes.
Yep, I don't have anyone.
Okay. Then let's move on to the chairperson's report. I do have to mention that there's a Fixing the Formula meeting with Lunenburg and Groton Dunstable, November 20th. This is going to be held in Groton, I believe, and I will send out information. There will be posters about it. It is about, Brad is one of the speakers that night. A second, it's a panel of discussions about the formula. So there'll be elected officials and guests and special guests. It's going to be at the Marion Stoddard Performing Arts Center in Groton. I don't know exactly where that is, or they don't have the address, but those will be sent out to everyone. So please do attend. And that is November 20th, 6 to 8. I'm going back. We do have 2 community relations things that were submitted. It was about the accreditation to the New England Association of Schools and Colleges. NM earned that degree, the high school. The same accreditation that we had spoke about earlier in the year. Lisa Bloom. Okay, Jackie's been promoted, or Jackie's coming on. Lisa Bloom, was that your question?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Yeah.
And then Anna Bowen was commended by a National Merit Scholarship. She received that honor. I think Natalie touched on several of the happenings in the district with several of our inductions into National Honor Societies. There's a showcase, NM showcase, and a powder puff game, and several parades going on at the elementary schools and the preschool. That concludes my report for tonight. Superintendent Morgan.
Sure, thank you.
Report.
And I'll be quick. As I mentioned in an email to the school committee about a week ago, we are struggling in a few key areas. Right now, I would say the most significant is around some of our class size issues, which was really expected based on some of the reductions that we made last year. We are paying close attention to our salary line item. Right now, it is looking good, but we do have some leaves and some long-term substitute positions that will need to be addressed at least in the next several weeks. So I would say that we would like to start looking at some of these problem areas right around Thanksgiving to see if there's anything that we can do to try to relieve some of the stress that our staff and students at this point are starting to feel. But again, we do want to make sure we get a little deeper into the school year with regard to that salary line item. Before we do that, I'd say the central office administration is trying to get out as much as possible and lay eyes on these classrooms, just so we're able to see what's happening and make the most informed decisions when the time comes, if the money is available. And that's all I have at this point, unless there are questions.
Any questions for the superintendent? I see Randy thinking. All right, Randy.
Other than, rather including hiring new staff to help out, I'm all in favor of doing stuff for the students. Will the school committee be informed of any extra purchases or anything that's going to be made to help out?
I'll certainly keep the school committee informed as to what's going on, but the goal at this point in time is to stay within the salary line item, which is what was passed by the committee with the budget last year. So that is the goal. It is not our intent to go into the red in that area unless we absolutely have to. And by have to, that would be special education decisions where we would be mandated to fill those positions.
Okay,
but I
so
will certainly keep the school committee informed as to what's going on and what problem areas are being addressed.
okay, so basically it's just staff that's looking at as a solution at the moment.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
All right, if no one else has any questions, we're moving on to Dr. Reese and his reports.
Good evening, everyone. As you know, or in your package, you have the homeschool report. As you know, each year in October, we share out just the numbers and also provide you with a 10-year look at where we are in terms of our homeschool student and family population. This year, we have, as of mid-October, we have 72 homeschool families and 149 homeschool students. So it's up about 3.5% from last year, but that 3.5% is actually just 5 students. So it gets to 3.5% because of a little bit of decline in enrollment plus the 5 additional students. We have 10 new students that are homeschool students this year. 5 of them come from families that were already previously homeschooling other students in their family. And then there are 5 new students or new families, 4 new families, 5 new students to homeschooling programs here in North Middlesex. Happy to answer any questions about homeschooling.
Does anyone have any questions, Randy?
I'm looking at the report, and it looks like we're still very high compared to before the pandemic, before COVID. And I'm wondering if you have any feel for why that hasn't come back down and why that's staying up there.
Good question. So that's actually something we've talked about with some of our other neighboring communities, and everyone kind of saw a large spike when COVID first hit, and people are still seeing that recovery. So we're not unlike other communities in terms of getting back down to our pre-COVID numbers. I think this year was probably the first year in recent time that we saw a little bit of an increase in terms of our number of homeschool families, but not anything alarming or concerning. Like I said, it really was representative of 5 additional students.
Okay. And do we have this broken down by town? Is there any trends in towns versus?
Yep. So I took a look at that. That's a good question. I looked at it just for our new students, and we had 1 new family from Ashby, 2 from Townsend, and 1 family from Pepperell. So it was kind of equally distributed across our 3 communities.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Jackie White. Jackie, you're on mute.
This might sound silly, but I think one of our competitors here is influencers and social media. I think the number of people who are out there creating accounts like talking about homeschooling has just like really gone up since COVID too. So I think families are feeling more empowered to do it. So Randy, it might not be like a district thing we're doing or not doing. I just think it's more out there and acceptable, and there are resources to help families do it more sustainably. So that's one idea.
All right, any more questions? All right, moving on, Gary, to your next topic.
Yes, and actually I am going to pass this on to Dr. Cormier. As you know, last year he presented the MCAS data, and I felt like it was really valuable and gave a different look than what we had seen in previous years. So I asked him to do it again for us this year because I think it's more meaningful, the information he's sharing. So Dr. Cormier, I'm going to pass it over to you.
Thank you, Dr. Reese. So I'm going to try and keep this quick, just given where we are in the evening. So as Dr. Reese said, I took a look at the MCAS and accountability results as they've come in. There's been some more data around school culture that just showed up last week, and I haven't really had time to dig into it to get it to this presentation with any sort of depth. So if people are interested in that, I can certainly revisit that at a later meeting, but it just came out on Thursday, and it really wasn't enough to take a look at. But so I'm going to stick with just what we have for our state testing and for our accountability results. So as a lot of you know, 2025 is the first year where the bill in November had passed removing MCAS as a graduation requirement. There's no full research done on what effect that may or may not have had on student engagement, but there's an initial trend that people are going to be looking at that may or may not have affected North Middlesex. Again, it's super early in the process to make any sort of concrete decision on that sort of thing, but I do know some people are starting to look at it right away. So we may have a better sense of some of that in the next year or two once we start to see sort of repeated data come in. So basically for statewide, the results were pretty flat. We've stalled on some of the recovery from pre-COVID. The number was released that only 13 districts in the entire Commonwealth are at or above where they were in 2019 in both math and ELA. So, it's not great. And we are not one of the 13. So that's just something to kind of think about as we sort of contextualize all these numbers, that we are still in some sort of a recovery mode that we'd hoped to be out of by now, but we aren't, and we are in the majority who are not. 82% of schools in Commonwealth are designated as not requiring assistance or innovation. That was basically the same number as last year. Again, no better, no worse. 55% of schools met or exceeded or made what they called substantial progress towards their accountability targets. That's down. It was a little over 60% last year. And 61 schools were identified as schools of recognition. That's up. There were 50 last year. None of the schools in our district, however, were fortunate enough to receive that as a designation. This is quick. Again, just you all have the slide, so I'm not going to just read slide by slide, but these are what the indicators are that talk about your progress towards targets. It's different in different schools. So for example, your growth scores in elementary schools only apply to grade 4. And so it's not really a school-wide measure. It's really just a one grade measure for us, whereas other schools that we may be measured against might have K-5 and they have 2 years of data that can use. So it's not an apples to apples comparison between schools. It's really just sort of more about trending than anything else. And it goes up, and then there are just the high school only indicators such as your graduation rate, your extended engagement, and your dropout rate, which they don't obviously have a graduation rate for elementary schools. So for us this year, we have no schools that are requiring any sort of assistance or intervention. Squannacook it does have a school profile page, but it understandably has what they call insufficient data. So it does not measure it. Ashby does have a page, but it's not readily available because it is no longer an active school. However, Dr. Reese was good enough to make some inquiries and find the data for me. So we do have the data. But if you are trying to kind of source this publicly, it's a little tougher to find because it doesn't show up on our district page any longer. So essentially, I mean, there's good and bad, and there always is. But when it comes to our accountability percentiles, 5 of our 6 buildings were at a higher ranking than they were last year, so that's good. We've seen some positive growth in some areas. The growth is really, and again, I don't want to get too much into the weeds, it's really better internal data than it is sort of the statewide data. But scores like this sort of reward a lot of the hard work that the buildings were putting in last year, and they are to be commended for looking at goals that they set in order to address problem areas, and in many cases really did a great job with that. Overall, one of the things that we had addressed last year was that the Pepperell schools seem to have a disproportionately high absentee rate. Both schools did a tremendous job in lowering that rate. They're about average now, where they were significantly above average. So it's not, it's not, if you look at it compared to other schools, it looks about the same, but it wasn't last year. So they did a really, really good job targeting their kids about making sure they get to school, get in front of teachers, get in front of their classmates, and do some active engaging learning in real time and not have to do a whole lot of makeup work, which as we all know is not necessarily the most effective way to teach. We do need to, given the landscape around MCAS and state testing, we do need to make sure we are further committing ourselves to what our internal progress monitoring for students is because we don't we may not be, again, I don't want to say not, but we may not be able to depend on state testing end of the year to really give us a true indication of how our students do and what they are learning. We do have to do a little bit better job internally, making sure that along the way, throughout the year, we're able to gather this data, we're able to give this to our teachers, and our teachers are able to make the instructional decision-making based on real-time data and not necessarily the autopsy of an MCAS test that may or may not maintain some sort of validity. So individual student, again, we have ELA, math, science. We added grade 8 civics as a test last year. Internally, we have shifted from K-3 was using a program called iReady. We discontinued that program and we moved to a program called Dibbles, which is a long-standing. We actually used to use it as a paper-only version in this district years ago, so we've sort of returned to that. And then we still have the IXL for ELA for grades 4 to 8, and then math, where 1 to 8, we had tried. They had a new diagnostic last year, and we had shifted to that to kind of give it a try. Didn't get great feedback from teachers or students, so we returned to the original assessment. I heard almost no complaints about it this year. I didn't have to reset any tests. Looks like it went back to normal. Problem is, it's really hard for us to one-to-one compare this year's diagnostic data to last year's diagnostic data because the measurements don't add up. They change the way they group some of the questions. They change a little bit the rating scale. So we can get trend data, but one-to-one comparison data is going to be hard for us to get. So starting with ELA, the growth scores, they were good. So again, for people who are kind of new to this, they call typical growth, it's on a percentile basis. 40 to 60 is considered typical growth. It'd be nice if we were all at 99s, but that's really not reasonable. So if you're in 40 to 60, that means that your student on average made the 1 year of progress that they should have made with respect to all students across the state who have scored in their same range the 2 previous years of scoring. I know that's a lot there, but so for the shorthand version is you want 40 to 60, and if you look down all of our buildings, we're basically 40 to 60. Spalding's a tad bit low, but given the numbers of growth, again, it's only the 4th grade. Each student seems to hold like a significantly more of a percentage in a school the size of Spalding. So, to me, that's right there on the line. That's not bad to be at 36 because 1 or 2 kids would swing that a little bit either way. So definitely not anything that we're really worrying about. They're doing just fine. If we want to talk about the internal data, there's 5 measured domains on our diagnostic. In 4 of the 5, the middle school students scored higher at the beginning of this year than they did at the beginning of last year. So that means that they're retaining more. That means that the instructional practices that teachers are using, it's not just memorizing a bunch of stuff to get it through a test. It means they're keeping that knowledge a little bit longer and it's settling in with them because they're able to contextualize it. That's a very good sign. That's something that we haven't really been able to point to on a consistent basis. It looks like for a year, definitely for 2 years, kind of, we've been doing that. So we are turning a corner in that way, where it's not just learn to pass a test, it's learn to actually remember this stuff. So that's what we like. There isn't really the June 25 to September 25 carrying to the next grade level. That's been a little bit tougher. It's kind of all over the place. There's not really a trend to carry out there quite yet. I'm still looking at stuff, but I haven't really found anything that I can point to. As far as the trend, it is kind of scattershot where just some classrooms did well, some classrooms did not. And it's something that, bringing that back to the schools and the buildings and the teachers and have them sort of dive into this data themselves, they'll be able to interpret it a lot more than I can just sitting behind a spreadsheet. They have a lot more of the contextual day in, day out knowledge that would help explain a little bit more of that. Like, for example, things taught later in the year, if teachers felt like they needed to get things in before June 1st, it may not have stuck with the students because they just ran out of time. We all know, if you've been in the classroom, that we have 180-day calendar wise, but we really have about 150 days to teach kids when you talk about half days and you talk about skipped and scheduled, you talk about assemblies, you're talking about things like that. and you have about 200 days worth of material to cover. So it's already a challenge trying to get everything into the calendar. So the things at the end of the year tend to be the ones that we see not necessarily have that retention. Luckily, most of these will then cycle back the following year, so they'll get it. It's just, it might take a second time through. The best thing we saw was that the growth of foundational skills in the early grades of literacy is already matching where we were a couple years ago when we had teachers who had been really comfortable with what they've been doing. We've asked them to look more at evidence-based instructional strategies. There is a spectrum of comfort level between teachers, but even given that, we are where we were. So once teachers get more comfortable with it, there's no reason to not expect that those foundational skills, that growth will absolutely skyrocket, because we have the talent in the classroom to make this happen, and it's just a matter of just getting familiar with the new routines. And to have this level of success, really 2 years in of the skills block is pretty remarkable. Most people will tell you it takes 3, 4, maybe up to 5 years if you're changing evidence practices, changing your instructional routines to the level that we were asking teachers to start to look into. They're ahead of the curve. They're ahead of the pace, and that's really, really encouraging stuff. That was probably the best thing I saw when I was going through this. So our key takeaways, again, going back to the high school thing, the North Middlesex declined, but less than the state declined. Again, that's going to bring up those questions about the engagement where it's not a graduation requirement anymore. The level of investment and engagement of students, we just don't know yet, but we do know that we didn't slide as bad as the state averages did, so that's helpful. We had a good increase in performance for our multilingual learners. Again, something that we've put a lot of time and effort into. Some resources, having more teachers, having more training, and it's really paid off. They're doing really well. That was good to see. And we do have, when it comes to our writing conventions, they're still well above our scores of idea development. So what this basically means is that students can write as long as you tell them what to write about. They're very good at putting sentences together, putting in their proper punctuation. They know what an adjective is. They know what an adverb is. They do that very well. Generating ideas to write about, that's still lagging behind. Again, that's also a trend statewide, but it's still something that we should probably start to have kids get a little bit more of a solid foundation in, because as they move through, whether it's post-secondary, whether it's career, whatever, they're going to have to be more of idea generators than just sort of straight copying rules. But both scores were good. It wasn't that either of them was bad. It's just that gap between the two is something that we should continue to address. So math, same thing, right? 40 to 60 is the range. Again, we're right there. We have a couple schools that are just on the edge of 40, but again, with statistical differences, they're essentially 40. All the way up to Ashby, their 4th grade, did a tremendous job. Karen Rixford and Karen Walsh to be commended for the work they did to have the kids average outside the range of typical. That's rare, and that's something that they should be proud of, and I'm sure that they are. They're working every day to keep this year's kids at that level, and so it's setting up the 5th grade in Hawthorne to be very successful and give those kids a good head start. And now this year was combining them with Spalding. They can work with their teammates there and help sort of share some of the successes that they've had, and we can elevate the entire 4th grade a little bit higher. So this speaks to what I was talking about the internal assessments being important given the possible easing of MCAS. So what I've done is I have asked teachers the last couple of years to track some common assessment questions. I took those questions and I compared them to what our IXL diagnostic had for those same standards, that same type of question. And so basically what this graph does is it just tracks the percent correct, or the percent of students who show proficiency, I should say, at each of the grade levels. And you can see that through grades 1, 2, and 3, those two assessments are pretty close to each other. Either one of them would probably tell you the same story. Once you get to grade 5, you can see that there's a gigantic gap in some of these years. And all that really tells us is that the importance of multiple means of assessing these students, because if we just used IXL to try and talk about how our students were learning, well, that's a really, really dire picture of our fifth graders. If we only used their common assessments in class, that's actually really, really good, right? So the truth is probably somewhere in the middle. Depends on how the question was asked, depends on the time of day, you know, all the things that go into the variables of students showing their learning. And I think this is what we as a district have to make sure that we're helping our teachers and supporting them to give them not only the data once they have done this, but the tools to also, you know, be able to do this. Because if I'm a fifth grade teacher, and this is about, you know, the I think this was for number sense and number relationships, you know, if I'm a fifth grade teacher, I don't know if I need to help my kids or not, because these two, you know, if I only had one, if I only had the IXL, it's like, oh, these kids need a lot of support. If I only had the common assessments that these kids don't need much support at all. Again, truth in the middle. So the more data we can provide for our students and for our teachers, the more we're going to be able to help them along the way and find that true sense of student learning. The takeaways from the math data is that, again, it was pretty flat. Grades 6 and 8 saw a bump back to where they were 2 years ago. They had both taken kind of significant downturns last year. They're back on what a trend line would expect them to be at this year. So that was a good recovery from both of those grades. So congratulations to them for that. Subgroup data, same thing. You know, whether we break them out by our low-income students or students with disabilities, it was essentially flat. Like, it was really kind of more of the same. And this was at the district and the state level. This was pretty consistent. So, you know, nothing to really write home about, but also nothing to really panic about. It's just kind of staying the course. And again, with the grade 10, they trended downward a little bit, but it was less down than the state was. So we're, again, kind of following what the general pattern, but a little bit better. This is one place that we do overall still need to find a place that we can support our ML students a little bit more. You know, just they didn't quite make the strides that they did in ELA, which, you know, it's fine. ELA does seem to get a lot more of the focus. So how can we take those strategies that are working and apply them to math? Again, we're turning that greater use of the assessment data to drive that instruction, and then really just making those student experiences consistent as they progress through the grade levels. It's a lot of vocabulary in math. There's a lot of different processes in math. The less students have to completely whiplash between grades to grades and really have more of a consistent experience that just has a tweak, the better off they're going to be. And so we still have a couple places where we do need to kind of tighten that up. But overall, you know, again, we're doing well. It's just, you know, we're talking about the margins really at this point. And then quickly, we'll just go through science. Slight increase in grades 5 and 10. Grade 8 was kind of declined. Again, that's what the state did. So it could have been test, could have been many things, but we were pretty much right in line. Our students with disabilities, gains at all levels. That was great. We're really helping support those students in a much more robust way. And that's always great data to see. And grade 10 was above the state levels in all of the subgroups as well. So really, really strong science work. The AP exams, we maintained our student participation. There was 172 students both last year and this year. And then the number of tests was only up 1, which was good because there was a big jump last year. So, and the performance was about the same. Again, the percent of students scoring 3 or higher went from like 60.5% to 60% flat. Which, again, given the one test, it might have been one test. The takeaway from that is that whatever was done last year, or I should say the prior year, that made students feel safe to take the risk of taking an AP test, that worked the year before, but then that also remained the culture in the building and allowed those, you know, another group of students, because again, some of those students graduated, so the new students stepped into this AP test taking realm, they also felt safe and supported and able to do that. And I think that's awesome. I think that's a quite a shout out to Principal Smith, Principal DeMar, the whole staff there for, you know, having those kids really feel like they had the space, they had the ability, they had the time, they had the courage to put themselves out there for an AP test or multiple AP tests. And so that's really heartening to see. And that is all I have.
Thank you.
So do you have the slides? And all these are linked to actual data. I didn't want to just put a bunch of tables up there, but the tables are all linked in here too. So
Thank you. Thank you, Kevin. Anyone have any questions? Randy?
Just a quick one, and you may have kind of skirted around this, but I didn't quite catch it. I know I think it's great that we have multiple ways, especially internal, to be able to evaluate the students' progress on a one-on-one, on a more consistent and in the moment way to do that. Especially with MCAS no longer being a graduation requirement, can we see any kind of trends on how our internal evaluations are going versus how they perform on the MCAS? Is that even something that we want to be looking at? And that's actually helpful.
oh, it's a great question. And ultimately, yes, we do want to do that. And I've done enough work with curriculum and with I mean, my dissertation was on this. I've done a lot of this work over the years. So I feel like I can do this. The problem that we have had is that we're still sort of in the phase in of getting all of the data collected. So I have some data. I don't necessarily have enough where I feel like I can make that statement, but I have systems in place to do so, and then we're just gonna just stay with supporting teachers and how can we get that data from them in the easiest manner. So that is the goal. The idea would be, and I always said this even to my kids when I was teaching, I was like, the MCAS should be the easiest test you take all year. I should have a great idea of where you are before you ever step in that room that day. And I think a lot of teachers also teach that way. So now it's just a matter of, do we have the data to back that up? I believe the data exists. It's the collecting of the data and how can we support teachers to not, throw like, another thing at them? How can I, in my capacity, give them the tools to be able to more easily be able to do that?
Okay, thank you.
Anyone else? All right, thank you. We'll move on in the agenda. Our next topic is on to new business. We have is Mr. DeMar here.
I don't know if he's speaking to this or if
Okay.
Brad knows anything about it, if it's for an athletic sponsorship banner.
I do not. I did not ask to have it put on the agenda, so if Mr. DeMar is not here, then
Yeah, we
we'll
can
have to
continue
wait.
it, Lisa.
Okay, I do know that it was senior night for the soccer team. So we'll just continue that to the next meeting. All right, moving on to the second, under new business, the second item is the committee member attendance and participation expectations. All right, so whoops, Randy.
Yeah, I just realized, I think we ended up accidentally skipping over public comment.
Oh, no, we did. There was no one.
Yeah, we
There
talked
was no
about
one
it.
there.
They
We
weren't in
did
the
talk
room.
about it.
Oh, but okay, I thought somebody had told me that they had put in for something to be read.
Nope. I didn't receive
No.
anything to be read.
Lisa Bloom, if you're talking, you're on mute.
Yeah, Kathy Boloris actually had said that she put in a request to Robin and asked for me to read it.
Yeah,
She
I
didn't.
apologize for missing that earlier.
She signed up to talk until when I didn't see her in the room. Usually what
Yeah,
they do is
because she's at another meeting and couldn't attend, but I think she said that she was gonna send an email to you asking if I could read it.
I didn't receive anything. Usually they send it, they'll send it to me, but I haven't received anything from her.
Okay.
Because she did sign up in the sign up, but she's not here and she didn't state that somebody else was reading it or send anything forward to myself or to Robin. Jackie?
She said.
Did I see in the meeting packet too? I thought Rob Templeton had asked to speak about something.
He's going to
He-
speak at the next meeting.
Okay,
He
Is
had
that
to jump
correct?
off. Yes,
got
he
it.
had to jump off. Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay, now moving down to the attendance and the participation expectations. I need everyone to follow the goals, or not the goals, the norms that everyone say that they're coming to the meeting or give me notice that they're not attending. That's important so that we can make quorum for any of the committees, like subcommittee or the main committee.
Lisa, may I
That's just,
just ask that if you could accept or decline the meeting invites, would be very helpful so that we know who's attending and who isn't, and then it also allows you to see who is attending and who isn't. That would be very helpful.
that helps us a lot to see if we have quorum. And especially like with the workshops, we did pay for Tony and there were a few that did not attend. And so that was meant for all of us to attend and be as a group together. All right. Moving on to the school committee workshops and professional development. We did have Tony and MASC come in and present to us about the roles and responsibilities. If anybody has any comments about them, I thought they were well received and we learned a lot of great feedback, things that we can take forward as a committee. I would look forward to doing our next workshop on setting our norms, protocols, and goals. If people are interested, I'd like to do this or see if there would be a date available before November 18th, our next meeting. I know that November 4th and that week probably does not work because I know that's MASC week and people may be attending that. So it's probably the following week. And I can send out an email to everyone and just ask for feedback to what date would be available for everyone if that works. Yes, Jackie.
I would fully support doing another workshop. I thought it was a really good opportunity for us to come together, like in physical space and kind of be with one another and talk more about like us as like what drives us, what we see our roles as being, and sort of having an outside perspective from Tony was helpful too. I think we all benefited from that for sure.
Brandy?
First is logistical. Are you thinking that we should have MASC back in for doing the protocols? They had suggested that if we were going to do another workshop with
Possibly.
them. All right, because I need to get in touch with them about their availability.
Yeah. Possibly, Randy, or we can do it as a group together and then like do some things, with MASC and see if they like it, we can, I think just meeting as a group is important for some
Yep,
of our
no,
goals and things,
absolutely. I noticed that we had a couple of workshops on and we've used 2 of those, which is wonderful. I think they were very well used. I very much thought that both the MASC and the workshop with Tony Bent were very valuable. And I think we can take a lot from those. We don't have any more of those workshops until I think, late
had
in.
one scheduled for November 4th, but we've taken that off because it's MASC week. And I know that a few people could not attend. And so that's why I'm thinking the following week would be a good week.
Right. I would just say maybe we try and put on another 2 or 3 if you're going to be asking everybody for their availability. This way we know ahead of time if we want MASC to come in or somebody else, we have those dates available to ask them if they are free. And it gets onto everybody's calendar. So it's kind of plan out a little bit more than just one meeting.
Good idea.
I know that we run into the holidays and things coming up, so that's tricky for everyone. So when I send out an email, I'll put a few dates on and we'll see what we get and then come back. All right, Lisa Bloom.
So November 4th isn't on the calendar then anymore?
No, it is not.
Okay.
Not at this
Okay.
time.
Thank you.
Excuse me, Madam Chair, the MA, if you're referring to the conference, that's the 12th through the 14th.
The 12th through the next week?
Yeah, the conference is the following week.
So maybe we will make that week work somewhere, but we won't do the 4th. I know that some availability wasn't available, or some people weren't available on the 4th. Right. Any more questions or concerns with that? One thing I do want to bring up in here too is that people please take tours of our buildings. I know that we will be doing some looking at the capacity and different things happening in the district. So I do ask, even if you haven't been in the buildings in the last year, I ask that you do line up tours to see the buildings and what is happening in each building. I think those are great for our development as well, so that you understand what is happening in each building and what the building looks like before we make decisions about a building. Does that make sense to everyone? So, and Brad can help, or Superintendent Morgan can help you line up tours and things. We just cannot do it as a quorum. A few members can do it at a time, but just not as a quorum. Randy.
Just for logistics and especially for the newer people, how would you suggest, or who would you suggest we go through to set up the tours, individual principals, all through Brad? Is there somebody else to kind of set that up? So all the members know which way to go.
Yep. I think I will work with Brad and send out some dates to everyone and see if people can fill in those of availability. And then Brad and I will get the tours lined up for you. Because it may not be Brad taking you on the tour. It may be somebody on his admin team taking him on the tour. I know maybe Jeremy would do it. I'm not sure. But Superintendent Morgan can figure out the logistics behind that, and I'll help schedule everyone for tours. And I know that several of you have not been in the buildings in a few years. They have changed. So I do recommend that you see each building. All right, now moving on to the North Middlesex Band. Nancy Haynes.
Great. Can you hear me okay? So we have a renewal we're borrowing short term for 1 year to renew the bond anticipation note, which is for the high school and the accelerated repair projects, which were projects done, started, I think, back in 2018. We are still rolling a short-term note until the MSBA closeout is completed, and then hopefully that happens within the next year, and we will have a final long-term borrowing. In the meantime, we essentially are borrowing to hold that and paying a portion of the principal each year. It's just only on a 1-year basis. So our financial advisor at Unibank helps us with this bid process. It's rather involved. In your packet, we included the bid result for the borrowing, and Bank of New York Mellon Capital Markets was the low bidder with a net interest cost of just under 2.60 and some change. In addition to that, there is a premium, which is money that they also will give us at closing towards that reduces the net interest cost of $241,633. We did really well with the borrowing this particular time. There is a large vote that has to be, we usually read in from someone volunteers to read that in, and is required to close on the note, which is rolling. It'll again roll on October 30 1st, and then be due next October 30th,
Mm.
2026. So if we don't have any questions, maybe we have a volunteer that might be able to read the motion.
I think Randy looks ready.
I was just about to
Thank
say,
you,
I had some
Randy.
water. I'm
All
ready
right.
to speak
Well,
until my
thank
mouth
you.
is dry here. This is
I
always
Go
appreciate
ahead.
it.
Okay, I move that the school committee vote. We hereby determine in accordance with GL Chapter 70B that the cost of the new district high school project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on February 10th, 2014. Varnum Brook School Feasibility Study Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on September 12th, 2016. And Hawthorne Brook School Feasibility Study Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on September 12th, 2016. Varnum Brook Elementary School Renovations Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on September 12th, 2016. Hawthorne Brook Middle School Renovations Project authorized by vote of the district passed on April 3rd, 2017. And VI Squanicook Elementary Early Childhood Care Center Renovations Project authorized by a vote of the committee passed on April 3rd, 2017, each being financed with the proceeds of a portion of the notes defined below, together with all other bonds and notes of the district previously issued to pay costs of these projects, does not exceed the portion of the total cost of the projects that are not being paid by the school facilities grants, and we hereby approve the issuance of notes and bonds to finance these projects under GL Chapter 70B. Further vote to
Can I
approve.
interrupt?
Sure.
Randy, for your sake, can we just say as written?
No, we're not allowed to. We
have
actually have to read
this one has to be done. Okay.
Yeah.
I just wanted to clarify.
Yeah, there's a
Um,
few things that have to be actually read into record, and this is one of them.
Okay, thank you for reading then.
Okay. Further vote to approve the sale of $17,100,257, 4.00% general obligation bond anticipation notes, the notes of the district dated October 30th, 2025 and payable October 30th, 2026 to BNY Mellon Capital Markets LLC at par and accrued interest, if any, plus a premium of $241,633.47. Further vote that in connection with the marketing and sale of the notes, the preparation and distribution of a notice of sale and preliminary official statement dated September 30th, 2025, and a final official statement dated October 7th, 2025, each in such form as may be approved by the district treasurer, be and hereby are ratified, confirmed, approved, and adopted. Further vote that the district treasurer and the chair of the committee be and hereby are authorized to execute and deliver a significant events disclosure undertaking in compliance with SEC Rule 15C2-12 in such form as may be approved by bond counsel to the district, which undertaking shall be incorporated by reference in the notes for the benefit of the holders of the notes from time to time. Further vote that we authorize and direct the district treasurer to establish post-issuance federal tax compliance procedures and continuing disclosure procedures in such forms as the district treasurer and bond counsel deem sufficient, or if such procedures are currently in place, to review and update said procedures in order to monitor and maintain the tax exempt status of the notes and to comply with relevant security laws. Further vote that any certificates or documents relating to the notes, collectively the documents, may be executed in several counterparts, each of which shall be regarded as an original and all of which shall constitute one and the same document, delivery of an executed counterpart of a signature page to a document by electronic mail in a PDF file, or by other electronic transmission shall be as effective as delivery of a manually executed counterpart signature page to such document. And electronic signatures on any of the documents shall be deemed original signatures for the purposes of the documents and all matters relating thereto, having the same legal effects as original signatures. Further vote that each member of the committee, the district treasurer, secretary, and the district treasurer be and hereby are authorized to take any and all such actions and execute and deliver such certificates, receipts, or other documents as may be determined by them or any of them to be necessary or convenient to carry into effect the provisions of the foregoing votes.
I'll second that.
All right, so that was Randy and Keenan.
I think that deserves a round of applause right there.
Anyone have any questions? All right, so then we are going to vote. Carla. Carla. Carla.
Sorry, I'm on mute. Yes.
That's okay. Jackie White.
Yes.
Lisa Bloom.
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti.
Yes.
Keenan Francois.
Yes.
Pam Craven.
Yes.
And Randy
Yes.
Roche. All right, and myself, yes. So that is unanimous. All right, moving on to MASC delegate selection. So every year at the Cape, they do a conference for the school committee. It has different workshops and different featured speakers. It's, get me right on the dates, Dr. Reese. It's from the 12th to the 14th, correct? You can go for partial or you can go for all of it. Would any committee members like to go to this? Anyone?
I will add that if anybody is free to go, they generally are worthwhile, especially for newer members. They have some really good sessions there on a range of different things. Those sessions should be out now, so you can see what is being held there. It's a good place to find out a lot of information and do some networking with other committees.
And they're like little, like 40-minute sessions, I would say. They also do offer charting the course on Saturday. I think it's on Saturdays that they do charting the course. It is a good event. You do learn a lot from the event, especially if you are a new member. Jackie.
Normally, this is something I'd be all over. I just don't think I can get time off of work to go. And I know you said partial, like
You could go.
Yeah, I'll look into it a bit. But
that's
I
okay.
think it is a really good opportunity to do this, and I'm glad that we have the ability to do something on this line,
Yeah.
but I'll let you know.
And I do think that they film some of these too. They may have some of the sessions filmed and taped.
Okay.
I'm gonna offer that. Kim.
Can you just clarify how many spaces and how would the configuration go? Or is that something that we would just divide up?
Whoever would want to go, and you pick the courses that you want to see or the speakers that you would like to go see.
Yeah, there's no sign up usually. You just kind of show up in the room where they're going to be having that. They have a whole schedule.
Yeah.
Yeah, I could potentially go on one of the days.
Okay. So would you like to be the representative?
Well, we have to take a look. I didn't notice. Usually they have the voting on just the Wednesday. So
it's just the Wednesday. Okay.
That they have
can't do the Wednesday.
The vote on the
Okay.
resolutions. Everything else is,
Yeah,
per schedule.
Sometimes sometimes they had it on a Friday morning.
I believe that it's scheduled for Friday afternoon.
Friday afternoon now?
It says the delegate assembly will take place on Friday, November 14th at 3:15 p.m.
Yeah.
I
Okay.
would not be helpful then.
Okay. Well, you can still go to the conference. You don't have to be.
Yeah.
Don't have
Yeah.
to go as a delegate. So Kim, if you're interested, let Robin know and she can make the arrangements. If that is okay with everyone on the committee. And if other people would like to go too, just contact Robin.
I mean, I would love to go, but it's a childcare thing for me. Single dad, it's hard.
It's okay. It's okay. For the resolutions, since we do not have a delegate, or would we want to vote on these resolutions or discuss any of the resolutions? That is up to the committee.
I think we passed on this last year because we did not send a delegate.
Yeah, we did.
Yeah. Generally, we've obviously discussed and voted on them when we had somebody there to vote in the larger delegation, especially in the light of the time. I would suggest we pass over. Everyone can go ahead and read what's being suggested. Majority of the resolutions do get passed. So if you're reading through them and you have questions or would like to discuss something on the committee, we can certainly bring that back just to have an internal discussion about what MASC may be advocating for.
And this is where MASC advocates for these things at the state level.
Yep.
So that's what these resolutions are, so that everyone has an understanding. All right, so we're going to move on. Let's go to the superintendent's goals. I'm going to hand it over to Superintendent Morgan to discuss his goals. First, I do have a correction to make. I did state in one of the meetings that we did take a vote on Brad's goals being 2 years. We did not take any type of vote or a binding vote to that. And so we need to discuss this as Brad discusses his goals. But his goals are presented in a way that they are at a 2-year cycle. So I will let Brad present his goals first, and then we will have a discussion.
Sure, and I'm not sure if the committee, I know, I don't believe last year I read through the goals because I shared them in advance. So I don't know if you want me to read through the goals or just take questions.
Personally, I don't have any questions. You sent them out in advance, so I think just taking questions is fine. Me personally.
Yeah. I agree.
Do you want to just like briefly give like goal 1, goal 2, goal 3, Brad, just for the public? Just briefly.
Sure.
It doesn't have to be
Sure.
the extent.
So goal 1 is essentially around district improvement. We do have a team of central office administrators who will be participating in a series of workshops and coaching sessions that will be hosted by the Mass Department of Elementary and Secondary Education and Education Resource Strategies on resource use, specifically on how to best navigate some of the pressing resource challenges that not only regionals, but really all districts are facing at this point. So we did have our first meeting at Holy Cross. It was very beneficial. There were 4 other districts in the room. And again, this is how to really look at resources, how to better utilize those resources, but also giving building-based administrators the ability to make more building-based decisions around what their needs are, but with that in mind, having to potentially make difficult decisions as well, so that any type of addition would have to be likely offset by some type of subtraction or reduction. So that is the first goal. The second goal is that Dr. Reese and I are doing this goal together. We are both taking a Train the Trainer course on AI integration. And this is essentially, again, a group of educators from around the world, really, being introduced to AI, the teaching, learning, and operations. And the goal is to, over the 2-year time period, to get all of our instructional staff initial training on AI's tools, the ethical and effective use of student-facing AI, develop an AI literacy plan, and begin the work of developing foundational skills in grades 6 through 12. But again, this is really going to be something that we're going to start with staff on. I do think we're a bit ahead of the curve with regard to other districts, but we are hearing more and more now that districts across the state are immediately instituting consequences to students using AI without fully realizing that students are using AI on a regular basis without even realizing it in some cases, not necessarily just Chat GPT. It's being used in their daily lives, and again, not always being aware of it. But again, just looking at how can we best prepare our staff, but also make sure that students are aware as well, and with regard to how AI can be used as a tool. But it should be something that, based on what we decide as a district, it could be something that can complement their education rather than do the work for them. And the third goal, again, is something that I'm working on with the assistant superintendent and director of special education, working around doing monthly visits to each school. And our focus during these monthly visits, in addition to meeting with the building administration, is to begin the process of doing some classroom walkthroughs. I do try to avoid using observations because we are not doing observations. That is something the building-based evaluators will do. But looking at instructional strategies in our inclusion classrooms, also looking at some of our sub-separate special education classrooms, and determining what types of supports our staff need to best serve the students. Again, in addition to the large class sizes that we're dealing with, we are dealing with a large special education population that is growing in the district. So we want to make sure that the staff are properly trained with to enable them to differentiate and really push each individual student to attain their personal best. But on top of that, looking at some of our sub-separate programs and making sure that those staff members are properly trained as well, and that they're getting the support that they need. And that's something that Dr. Reese, myself, and Ms. Upton will be working on over the course of the year, with the hope of hopefully dedicating some professional development time and some observation hours of someone coming in and observing some of our special education staff in the instructional setting, and then using PD time to debrief and work with the staff and support them on areas in need.
All right.
There are timelines, but I would say that the timelines, and again, I'm happy to continue to keep the school committee in tune with regard to the timelines, but some of them are likely going to have to be adjusted. Just because, in some cases, for instance, if we're able to identify someone to come in and offer PD, or potentially use someone in-house to offer that PD, that may take time when it comes to scheduling, and then being able to align it to our professional development day as well. So I do see it being like the other goals, a two-year goal, just using that one as an example, because all of these things take time, and then eventually make it part of our teacher induction process as well, when we're bringing new teachers into the district.
All right. Any questions on the goals? Kim Craven.
Thank you. I appreciate you sending them over for our review. I did cause me some additional reading to learn about what schools are doing around the AI piece of it, because that was an area that, while in my profession, studying it a lot, not so much in this. So thanks for the additional reading, Superintendent. One thing I wondered with that, though, is there a nexus somehow between, not that you have to totally codify it or put it into your group, but as the education component is going through looking at how AI works, is there anything that you think would benefit by connecting with the law enforcement community on what they're seeing with AI, just as a protective measure? Any connection that you can have with the Homeland Security folks or the cybersecurity folks, they're really doing a lot of work. And I'd say that just coming back from our international conference, where there was a ton, and I'm sure Chief Sautel, he was there as well.
Mhm.
you know, connect you with similar folks, even just for a conversation with some of them. They have some amazing information on just the things to be wary of, if that would be helpful to you. I know that he or I would, you know, not to speak for him, but I know that he's very accommodating to get you in contact as you're going through that goal. Please reach out. Um, and the other thing I had is, as this is moving forward, I know the timelines can change, but having this set up as we move forward for this school committee, I think would help us. And I don't know what the others feel, is if we had some sort of like grid structure, so that as we have our meetings, I can now look back at your old goals and see things that you were informing of us of and where they fit. But I think for efficiencies is you have these goals now as you're doing things. If we, you know, see them in a grid structure, I think it will help us
Mhm.
for the future. But I
Okay.
appreciate you sending them along, and I don't disagree with any of them.
I can certainly do that, and I will certainly reach out to the 3 police chiefs to get their thoughts on it. And really, a lot of this is around if we don't do something with AI, we have seen that in some cases, teachers and potentially students will go off on their own. So this is something that eventually we're going to have to look at policy on. We're going to have to include in our handbooks. But that is something that we have seen. I wouldn't say a lot of, but we have seen, you know, if we don't do something, eventually we will have, you know, members of our school community exploring on their own. And we do want to make sure that we have guidelines in place to make sure that if and when it's used, it's being used appropriately. And again, to complement education, and it's being used, you know, you know, respectable AI sites are being used just to make sure again that the students are getting something out of it, the staff are getting out of it. But a lot of this is going to come back to the school committee, I believe, and be based on policy as well.
There's definitely a lot going on with it, like even in my profession. I'm sorry for everyone if I was smiling when the superintendent was talking. My kitten, every time you talk, superintendent, she starts talking back at you. I had to take her out of the meeting once already, but that's why I was chuckling. It wasn't at anything that you were saying. So for anyone that saw me laugh, it wasn't at Brad.
Not a
Thank
problem.
you, superintendent.
All right, Randy.
Thank you, Brad, for breaking this down a little bit further with some intermediate goals. I absolutely understand, especially if we're going to be approving 2-year goals. These are soft dates that you're aiming for. It just has to be, especially with such large undertaking for these goals. Kind of go where everything leads you. Just keep the school committee updated when something's got to change. And I think that is perfectly fine. As far as the AI, we had a brief exchange on this. So again, sounds like you're really looking into what's best for the students, but always just keep in mind as far as how and what they're actually using. Make sure that it's educationally appropriate and not just a fad. You know, like we had said, technology between the phones and some other things, you know, everyone was like gung ho, brought them in, and then we're pulling them, you know, phones out of the schools now because we have found that it is a distraction, that it is not helpful. It is not being used and helping the education process as we once thought. So just, you know, make sure that as you're learning about all of this, you're keeping those things in the back of your mind. And once you have a direction, if you can bring back your findings to the policy subcommittee, the school committee should have a policy on this before we implement things. But we definitely want to have your input on what you're learning in these courses and what's being advised so that we can have an appropriate policy going forward that everyone agrees on. As far
Certainly.
as okay, as far as all of the goals in general, I think you've done a nice comprehensive job at explaining what they are and what the key actions are. As we are doing development on the school committee side for the evaluations, and we definitely have more training to do on how to do the evaluation on our part. The guidelines, reading through them now, do have these standards you have here. We should probably call out the exact standard and not just the name of it under instructional leadership curriculum. There were they're specific, like, you know, ID4, whatever, I don't remember the numbers offhand, but we should
Mhm.
make sure that we have it set so that when it comes to the evaluation, there's no question at that point what we agreed to evaluate you on. As well as maybe, it doesn't have to be done at this meeting. I would be happy to approve these goals and work on some of the stuff after the fact. But some of the evidence to bring forward, other than just a list from you of what you've accomplished, that's something else that's in the evaluation, that we have some kind of evidence of what was created, what was accomplished, and we can work on that too for an agreement. But definitely trying to move forward with education on both sides.
Okay, thank you.
All right, and I want to touch on what Randy brought up, is some of these things can be worked on in one of our workshops, like the evaluation process and how we're going to do the evaluation of Brad's goals. It doesn't have to be decided tonight, which I don't think we all want to stay around and decide tonight. We will push it to another workshop and do that and bring that back to Brad and have final approval on that as well. If that's okay with everybody in the committee, with the evaluation process and how that's going to be handled. All right, Alexander, you have a question.
Yeah, I just wanted to add to the whole AI thing. So while I am personally against AI in the classroom in most situations, I do think it's a valuable thing for Superintendent Morgan to go to these things. I think, you know, I think basically AI is like a calculator for writing, and it will atrophy your brain just like a calculator will. If you don't practice your math enough and you rely on a calculator all the time, you lose your ability to do math. I'm worried about kids losing their ability to do research and their ability to do writing because they become so dependent on AI. So I think it is very good to have programs in place as far as when and if they should use AI at all. I think that's a good thing, and I think it's good that we're looking more into this, but I do think we should be extremely, extremely cautious on how much we implement it in the classroom. And I also don't think we should shove AI tools down the throats of teachers. I personally don't like to use AI tools. You know, I would be very resistant if one of my administrators came to me and said, "You have to use AI now." I would be I would not be a very happy teacher at that point in time. And I think a lot of other teachers might feel similarly. So, you know, just my 2 cents on the matter. Since I almost didn't say anything, but since I'm in a classroom every day, I think I have to say this. Just because I've seen kids use AI, and for a lack of better term, it's making them dumber because they become so reliant on the computer for all the answers. To the point where I don't let them use computers at all in my class unless it's specifically in the curriculum. They have to do a computer-based assignment. And even then, I try to find a workaround, way to do it on paper, a way to do it hands-on. Just because it's become an epidemic. So sorry to drone on about that, but I just felt like I needed to add my 2 cents.
Thank you.
Thank you, Alexander. Any other questions or concerns about Brad's goals? Jackie White.
Just quickly too, I think one piece that I don't know if it's missing for me, but I just feel like there's still some of that community relationship piece that we're all going to have to be working on over the next, bit of time. So I don't know if that has disappeared completely or if that's, it's always something that's being worked on, but just to throw it out there that that's on my mind too.
So I do have a couple different advisories that I'm working with that are made up of community members. But in addition to that, I'm trying to get out in the communities. Again, not just beyond the schools, but also become, to the best of my ability, more of a voice around the education funding formula. I did speak a couple times last year. I'll be speaking a couple times again this fall And I intend to keep that effort up in making connections with other community members, state legislators, as well as other school districts as we continue to try to push for more equitable funding for regional schools.
So I know, and I think I see that work that you do, right? And so I feel like having it reflected here on this document will allow you to then like get some credit for it too at the end of the year, right? It's taking up
Okay.
significant time. Just my thought.
Okay. I can certainly try to work that in.
Okay.
Carla.
Yeah, just to piggyback on Alexander, I think AI is great. I mean, it's the way of the future. Everyone's using it, and it's here to stay. I don't think it's going away. Just like technology is always evolving, and I think it's great that you're proactively looking into this. But then, just to piggyback on Alexander, I think there should be also, the additional caution of it not being. The kids not using it as a tool to substitute their research, to go forward. And I'll use Alexa, not totally AI, but somewhat AI. And my own kid, he's 7, he's in 2nd grade, and he's doing his homework, and I'm telling him to write certain things, and he's running to Alexa, Alexa, how do you spell this? And I said, nope, you can't cheat. You got to do it the right way. So just to piggyback on Alexander on that, he's a very early learner, but there are kids that are in middle school and high school that, we don't want them to think of it as, a way to cheat out of doing research, but, as an additional resource as they grow and evolve into their career in the future, wherever their endeavor may take them. So.
Thank you, Carla. Carla, you did set off my Alexa in my house.
Sorry, because I called her.
All right. So I just have a few comments about your goals too, Superintendent Morgan. I strongly like goal number 1 with getting the central office involved with doing the team building and doing the resources to get more funding and looking at how to bridge that gap of budget creation with all of us and our communities. I think that's an important one. Along with AI, I'm glad that we're getting ahead of the curve on this one. I think it's important because it is here to stay and we're going to be using AI going forward. But I do think we need to be smart about our practices around it. And the third professional goal of getting into the buildings and doing the observations or walkthroughs, I think these are critical. We do have needs that come about in all of our schools, and I think it's important for leadership to see these. So I do like this goal as there too. Anyone else have any questions? All right. I would like to discuss a 2-year cycle. If everyone is okay with the 2-year cycle on these, Superintendent Morgan has been with the district for 7 years. After 4 years, he is given the privilege to go to a 2-year cycle. If the committee would like to go that way. I know that he will be giving us updates as we have requested. Randy has requested. Brad has said he will give us those. So does anybody else have any concerns or questions about going to a 2-year cycle?
You need a formal motion.
Yep, I can have a motion. I think there's one written.
Oh.
If you want to.
I got it. I'm looking at it.
Okay, thank you, Keenan.
I move that the North Middlesex Regional School Committee approve the superintendent's professional goals to be set on a 2-year cycle with a formal check-in and progress review to occur at the end of the first year. This review will serve to assess progress made toward the established goal, allow for any necessary adjustments, and ensure continued alignment with district priorities.
I second the motion.
So that was Keenan and Alexander. Any more questions or concerns?
Discussion on the motion, Madam Chair.
or discussion?
Yeah, I would just do a friendly amendment and leave the motion after, at the end of the first year. That should be the end of the motion. The final sentence with the explanation shouldn't be part of the motion.
Yeah, sure. It doesn't delete anything material, so do we want to just restate the motion?
Yeah, if you want to do a substitute motion, friendly amendment, that would be great.
Okay, I will amend my motion and strike out the final sentence. This review will serve to assess progress made toward established goals, allow for necessary adjustments, and ensure continued alignment with district priorities.
All right, so that is, do we have a second on that amendment?
Second.
Okay, that's Alexander. Keenan made the amendment. Alexander seconded. Can we vote on the amendment first? Is that correct? All right. Randy,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Kim Craven,
Yes.
myself, yes. Now we will go back and vote on the motion. Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Kim Craven,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, those are accepted. Thank you for the work that you did on them. And
Thank
looking
you.
forward to seeing more
Do we,
progress on them.
I'm sorry, do we need to move to accept the goals? Because that was just for the cycle. Is that something we need to do?
It's in there. Professional goals to be set 2-year cycle with a formal check-in. I think it was all in one motion unless people see it differently.
No,
If
actually,
that's how everyone else read it, then
no.
I thought this was just for a 2-year cycle.
Yeah, that's the motion reads, Lisa, when I asked you for the formal motion, I wanted to
Okay.
accept Brad's goals because what Keenan read was to accept goals in a 2-year cycle. So now I
Okay.
will move to accept
Okay.
the superintendent's goals for the years 2025 through 2027.
Okay.
And I'll second that.
So we have Kim Craven making the motion and Keenan seconding the motion. All right. Any discussion on the goals? All right. Randy,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Kim Craven,
Yes.
and myself is yes. All right, now we've accepted your goals, Brad.
Thank
Now
you.
we can move on to the next. To finance, Kim Craven.
Thank you. We have a few things coming up. On the 27th, there'll be a regional meeting at Garden Brook at 10 a.m. I am actually away speaking that day, so Keenan will take my spot and attend that meeting. He also was in attendance at our most recent finance committee meeting where we went through step by step all of the different funds that were coming in, because at our last meeting there was some confusion perhaps on where the money actually came from, what was from supplemental, what was from the insurances, and a bit of perspective that everything was, this miraculous, or as somewhere we're putting it, that all of a sudden this money just like came out of nowhere. So there was intentional money that was requested from the state as supplemental that we discussed. There was money that had to be set aside from the insurances that were kind of lumped into that. and then there had been borrowing done from some of the line items. So that's leveled out. The E&D will then get certified later in the year, or early next year. A letter did come in from the municipalities on October the 6th, reminding the school district that they can only spend up to the approved budget. There's discussion, and we have openly discussed it at the finance committee and at this meeting, that if there is a way to lessen the impact on the municipalities, we can discuss that. We can figure out what that looks like. We are one community, the North Middlesex District community, even though we have the 3 different communities within that. And so whether it be a school or a police or a planning unit, everything has to be there in order to make the municipality run. So I can understand the perspective of the leadership of the municipalities wanting to get that figured out, right? We want to do the same. So I know we had said, for October time, to start to look at where our numbers are at. So, we have to think, if we're at that place, that we agendize it, if we can, for the next meeting, Madam Chair, so that we can have it as a discussion point. This is just my report right now. This is not anything for vote or discussion from this committee. This is just what I'm reporting forward of, we've kind of gone through that process, heard the numbers from Nancy. And so we have to evaluate as a committee at our next meeting where we are at with the numbers that have come in.
Great. Thank you, Kim. Okay, moving on to policy. Randy.
Okay, hold on. All right, we have a lot on here. I'm going to take 2 policies right now out of order and away from this. There are 2 policies that I'm bringing to the school committee that have not been approved and gone fully through the subcommittee. And the reason for this is a time constraint. There is one policy, policy JG on pathways, is listed under policies for a first reading. I got all confused with the letters and everything. Robin was good enough to put them in where I told her, but I made a mistake. This is the policy that I need for us to suspend our normal process for policies. And this is called pathways for, oh, sorry, not JG. Yeah, JG. I even had the name wrong. JG is North Middlesex Regional School District Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy. This is something the state has said that they need in place by November 1st. We already do all of this in the schools, but we need to have it documented. MASC says not a policy, DESE says policy, because we have the grant in trying to get the the CTE program in the district. We want to make sure that we have this in place, even if it's not 100% needed. So I'm asking for the school committee to vote this adopted today without a first reading, suspend our normal processes. We can always come back and make alterations later if something is found. But this is just the program that we currently have in place, and we're documenting it for the DESE. So I'm going to move that we adopt policy JG, the North Middlesex Regional School District Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy.
I second.
All right, that was Randy and Lisa. And this is moving JG, middle
Yes.
school pathways,
Exploration
to,
policy. For adoption.
to be accepted, complete adoption, no first reading
Right.
tonight. All right. Does everyone understand that? Kim.
Just
Craven.
point of clarification, Randy, should we suspend the rules for you first? I'm all for it, but just
Okay.
protocol, I think we need to suspend the rules first.
Okay, that's fine. We can certainly have an official vote to do that. So then I will make a second vote. or motion right now is that I move that the school committee suspend our normal policy adoption policy for policy JG, the North Middlesex Regional School District Middle School Pathway Exploration Policy.
A
I'll
second.
So that was Randy and Lisa. This is just suspending the process that we are following. That's what this vote will be for. All right. Is everyone clear on that? Let's take the vote. Randy,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Kim Craven,
Yes.
and myself, yes. And so that now we've suspended the policy or the process. Now we'll take a vote because it's still on the floor for policy JG to be accepted and put in to following. All right. Randy,
Yes.
Jackie,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Kim Craven,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right. Continue, Randy.
The next one is the JFAA School Enrollment Residency. This was talked about at the subcommittee level, but we didn't have the exact language yet. We were waiting on council to vet the language in this policy. So I wanted to bring this separately from the other policies because the subcommittee did not vote on this. So I'm bringing this just as the chair tonight, because again, there's another constraint on this one. We have time for a first reading, but it does need to be in place for December, so I couldn't have a policy subcommittee meeting to approve it before bringing it to you. But this was vetted through our legal counsel, and we're basically putting in a residency policy. So I will move that we pass for a first reading, policy JFAA School Enrollment Residency.
Second.
So
So this is the normal process, Kim.
Yep.
The only difference is the subcommittee is not putting this forward. I am putting this forward on behalf of the superintendent.
can you just give me the letters on that one?
JFAA.
Okay. I did have a question
Okay.
before we do it. Somewhere in there, this policy mentions Tingsboro.
All right. We can go ahead and correct that between the first reading and the adoption. We will make sure that we go through this.
Yeah, that's why
with
I
a
wanted to
fine-tooth.
point it out to you.
Yeah. Okay.
It's on the last page. The last under V, the first bold bullet, second open or third open bullet, it's under there. If we could just fix that.
Okay. All right. I will make sure that that is out before we adopt it. Thank you for catching that.
You're muted, Lisa.
Oh, man. All right. Kim Craven, are we ready to vote?
Yes.
Okay. Kim Craven,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Randy Rush.
Yes.
All right. And myself, yes. All right. Continue, Randy.
All right, now it gets a little bit easier. There are two policies for adoption. These were, I have not received any feedback from the community or anybody within the district for changes that need to be made. So I'm going to move that policy JB, equal educational opportunities, and JBB, educational equity, be approved for adoption.
I second.
That is Randy Rush and Lisa Bloom with the second. Any questions on these policies before we vote? All right. Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Kim Craven. Kim?
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Andy Rush,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right. Moving on, Randy.
And then moving on, the subcommittee has been very busy with our 5-year reviews. There's some minor changes to the majority of these. So I'm going to just make one large motion unless somebody has a reason that I should do them individually. And this is just for a first reading. So I'm going to move that we approve for a first reading policy IJNDB, use of technology in instruction. Policy IJNDD, social media policy for school districts. Policy EFC, free and reduced food services. Policy JIB, student involvement in decision-making. Policy IMG, animals in schools. Policy JFABD, homeless students, enrollment rights and services. Policy JFABE, educational opportunities for military children. JFABF, educational opportunities for children in foster care. JIC, student discipline. JICC, also EEAEC, student conduct on school buses. And then EEAEC, also JICC, student conduct on school buses.
I second.
All right, that was Randy and Lisa Bloom. The second, any questions on any of these? These are out for the first reading. Kim Craven.
Thank you. I have a question on IMG, the animals in schools. So we need to alter the policy to cover the canine in the school that is different than the, any infrequent use of the canine in the school by law enforcement, and making sure that there's, policies, procedures in there related to, kids that might have allergies. And then one in particular that we, I believe, need to look at, Randy. The principal of the building must approve all animals to be brought into the classroom. Interpretation wise, we might want to fix that sentence, because if you read that literally, the principal must approve all animals to come into the building. It should be that the principal must approve if any animal shall be allowed in the building, not approve all animals to come in the building. It looks like it's a blanket that the principal has to allow them all in there. So we just might want to wordsmith that one a little bit.
Okay.
And I don't know if out of session, if you want me to help you with any of the language or how you proceed with that, to make sure that all the other pieces are covered for Miss Ruby or
Can't
other
hear
laws
you.
that might come along in the future.
Can I actually,
some stuff too.
can I get which policy that is? I'm trying to find it.
IMG.
IMG, okay, because there
Yeah.
was some things that there was language that was added. I just
Right.
want
Yeah,
to point out what was added.
Yeah, I'm
Just-
looking for that as well, because that was the whole reason on updating this was to have it for the police dog.
So it says on the exception, just before it goes into service animals or guide assistant dogs,
Yeah.
Yep.
it says exception, guide, hearing, and other service dogs and law enforcement dogs. So law enforcement dogs was added
Okay.
And I did work with our director of health services, or excuse me, supervisor of health services on language around allergies. I just have to find where it is.
Yeah, there is something in there in one spot, but right under the language that was added, superintendent,
Yep.
it says that it may be allowed. Where is
Yes.
it?
Yep. I see. It says these animals may be allowed in school or on school grounds with proof of current rabies vaccination. It's in
Yeah.
the bold where it says
Yep.
exception.
Yep, right in that it's page 2 or 3. I would put it in the conditions for allowing, though, not it to be an exception, because this isn't an exception. She's a everyday.
Okay.
Right. I'm gonna
Okay, makes sense.
right, because now this is a part of the contract with the department, that it's allowed if they have a dog, that it can be part of the SRO, like that has to be in their contract, and so it should be reflected in our policy that if there is a dog, it's allowed, that it's not an exception to the rule. It's an assumed that if there's a dog, it's allowed.
Okay, I can certainly work on those. I don't think those are major changes
No.
to the policy, so we are allowed to make changes per feedback between the first reading and the second reading. So I would still suggest that we approve it for a first reading tonight, and I'll make sure to point out the changes that were made when we look to adopt.
Yeah, no, I wasn't suggesting not to approve, just as part of the discussion.
Okay, thank you. I made note of that, and we will look into that.
All right. Any other questions? All right, ready to vote. Randy,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Craven,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti,
Yes.
and myself, yes. All right, moving on to legislative advocacy. Keenan Francois.
Yeah, so we just had our first meeting on September the 10th, and we had it was myself, the chair, and Kim Craven. And we had a great conversation with Representative Scarsdale. The discussion was focused primarily around transportation and what we can be doing on the state level to advocate, for regional school transportation, and trying to fix or come up with solutions to fix the shortfall that we're getting from the state, as opposed to the 100% reimbursement that we're owed. We get fluctuating rates every year. So we were trying to brainstorm some solutions to solve that. I highly recommend that everybody here, if you're interested, to watch the recording of that meeting to get into it. The motion that you see on the agenda, we did kind of run into a little bit of a speed block, where we do need a little bit more leverage, per se, to conduct our business efficiently. Since the way that our meetings are scheduled monthly, and the subcommittees are scattered in between, we can't feasibly come back to the committee every single time for a vote to participate in any of our business. So that's what the motion on the agenda is for. And I think Kim Craven, if she wants to elaborate that on any further, she brought this forward.
Kim,
You're
you're on
muted,
mute.
Kim.
Sorry about that. What was happening during the meeting, especially as dynamic as it was with the representative there, is with the schedule that she must adhere to get things forward, and our schedule, we could be left behind. And that if we know the intent is to try to get additional funding and be more flexible with school transportation, or to get more funding reimbursed, that the committee needs that flexibility to move forward, because otherwise there could be missed opportunities for us in the district. So if we have to bring every proposal back to the school committee, things are going to move forward without our district. And that's why we wanted to move this forward. And I think it's in that lane, right? It's not, I'm trying to think of a scenario that would not be well served. Like, we're not going to sponsor legislation to change the curriculum, right? It's on these topic areas. It's about reimbursement. It's about transportation. It's in the areas under the jurisdiction of this committee as it stands, not a new topic. It's not to become a super district. It's not to, we're not going to merge, we're not going to get behind legislation. And I'm making this up, audience. No one has mentioned this. This is an illustrative example. It's, this committee isn't going to get on board with something to merge with Groton Dunstable District School to have, a 5-district school. It's about the 2 topics that are on there right now, in the legislation that might come up to support our district.
Anyone have any more? Oops. Anyone have any questions? Okay. Randy?
Would there be a way so that your hands are not tied, but the school committee at least knows and says and gives a blessing for the topic? Like you said, you've been talking about transportation. I don't think we need to bring back every proposal. Oh, we're going to go advocate for the legislation for the reimbursement and for allowing us to have a fee and all the little details of it, but just that you're legislating and you are going to be active on the transportation front to try and help the district financially. And have those broad topics ahead of time that you can go ahead and do the work, but the school committee says, yes, we think that the legislative advocacy group should be working on those larger topics this year. Kind of like the MASC has their resolutions. That's much more detailed than I'm looking for, but just kind of have it passed and a quick vote from the school committee, could be beginning of the year, on what you plan on concentrating on the topics.
Right,
So
and I think that's already. Sorry, I think it's in the prerogative of this entire school committee to direct subcommittees to look into any specific thing. So if, again, wild illustrative example, if this committee decided that they want to refer the legislative subcommittee to look into curriculum, like legislation, then it is the duty of the subcommittee as a subcommittee to look into that. Given that this is a new committee, we didn't really have such a thing at the beginning. But going forward, we did establish that we are going to be looking into fiscal matters, especially that would be beneficial for the district in terms of legislation. Going forward, I think that's perfectly appropriate at the beginning of every school committee to set up some priorities that we want to see in legislation or that we want to see the subcommittee follow. But I think the motion, which hasn't been read yet, but the motion on the agenda does a good job of narrowing it down enough, but still giving enough leeway for the committee to do what we need to do. I don't know if anyone else has comments on that, Lisa or Kim.
Yep, I have a comment. It would be like giving areas the broad spectrum, like transportation. We would, do legislative with transportation. We would do special education legislation. We would do about circuit breaker legislation. Those would be the areas that our legislative advocacy group is going to do, if everyone is in agreement with those big areas. Does that make sense? The bigger areas, not the fine details, like we're going to go sponsor bill 27-7B. Like, you don't need that detail. Is that correct?
Okay. Right. And that's kind of what I'm just looking at, because I just don't want, especially if you're trying to move very, very fast on some of these things and you come up with stuff after the fact, come back and just inform the school committee, and then everyone's here going, you were working on what? kind of a thing, not the details, but we didn't want you working on, special education at this time. We thought this was more important for the financial matters. So just kind of a general guide each year on where you're going to be concentrating. Certainly the looking for the subcommittee to bring stuff to the full committee, say, you know what, we've been researching this and we think this is, we're gonna, we'd like permission to work on transportation. And it goes the other way where the school committee can sit here and say, that's a topic for the legislative advocacy group. Let's vote to give it to them. No details, no, fine print, but just everyone's on board with what's being worked on.
Yeah, and I think that's during this subcommittee report section that we have doing when it is optimal, when it is possible for me to report to this subcommittee, and maybe if it's something bigger to like let's get a vote on this, then absolutely when that's possible, yes, we will do that. We will report out. We will make sure that everybody is in the loop.
All right, any further questions? All right, Keenan. Whoops.
I was gonna say, Keenan, would you like me to give the motion now?
Yeah, please.
Okay. I move to vote the school committee authorize the legislative advocacy subcommittee to research, discuss, draft, and recommend legislative initiatives and positions that align with the school committee's efforts to have the best learning environment for the students, attain funds or policies that support operations.
I'll second.
Was Kim Craven and Jackie White with a second? All right. Are we ready to vote? Any questions? Randy?
Just a quick question on the language there. Draft and or recommend legislative initiatives. I'm assuming you're talking about recommending those to the state or to our representatives, or?
Yes.
Okay. What is that process? Would it be to the state reps that you would be making those recommendations? Or do you put something directly on the floor in front of the House?
No, it goes to the legislators.
Yeah, we can't bring anything to the legislative branch of Massachusetts. So that would all be going through State Senator Cronin or Representative Scarsdale or whoever might take their seats.
Okay, thank you. I appreciate the explanation. I'm not real familiar with the whole process.
All right, anyone else have any questions? All right, let's take a vote. Jackie White.
Yes.
Lisa Bloom.
Yes.
Carla Lima.
Yes.
Alexander Bancuti.
Yes.
Keenan Francois.
Yes.
Kim Craven.
Yes.
Randy Roush.
Yes.
Randy Roush. And myself is yes. All right, thank you, Keenan. All right, going to school committee operations. We did have Patrick McPhillips resign, so we do not have a chair for this committee. I would look at another school committee meeting to appoint somebody to the committee and take his responsibility. Or also, I think as a group, we may have to think about some of the committees and regroup. This is something that we could do in our workshops, like discussion about if we think things need to change or where our priorities and our goals have to align. So if everybody wants to think about that as we move forward and as our workshops come. All right. All right. Going on to community outreach and town liaisons. Carla, you had an update from Ashby.
Yes, so we do have, so we had a meeting about a month ago and we asked for a follow-up on some action items from our last meeting. So we do have a meeting scheduled for Thursday. So the town administrator asked if, our superintendent could join that meeting, which he's not able to make it. His agenda's already full. But Brad, I did have questions on that. So should we just gather the questions that they have for you and then present them to you or email them to you so that you can follow up and we can turn back on them? Because I don't have some of those answers that they're asking for.
That would be absolutely fine. And the reason that I can't attend, just so you're aware, is I have both collaborative meetings on that morning. I have the Keystone and the Valley back to back. So happy to answer any questions that they have. And certainly get back to them as quickly as I can on answers.
Perfect. And then that's all I have on that aspect. And I think, Lisa, we discussed in the future having that added to the agenda to relay back to the full committee what we're discussing. It's in preliminary stages right now, but we wanted to share that with the full committee just because it's all very new to me. So I wanted to get some feedback from the committee as well.
And so that will be a share back with you working with Kim in that working group and things. So we will get that on the committee or on an agenda going forward. All right.
Thank you.
Jackie White, question.
Yeah, I just had a quick question for Carla. Was this with just the town select board or was it with like community members? I'm just wondering, like, was there any anecdotal feedback? How is everyone doing? What's the sentiment like? Any of that stuff?
This was just with the town administrator, Kim and myself. So this is under that subcommittee, well, not subcommittee, but that work group that we have going on. So this is a follow-up to that, and we're just trying to get some feedback from the town administrator on, next steps.
Okay, thank you.
All right. And now I am moving to Pepperell's outreach. There are some things happening in Pepperell. There is some hearings going on that they are adding some new residents. There's a 180 complex of, Randy, correct me if I'm wrong, because you reached out to the planner. 180
unit
apartment units.
Yeah.
Yeah.
With one,
And then
2,
there's
3
another,
bedroom.
and it's affordable housing, and another 40 condo-based units that are looking to be done in the future. Right now, these are just in the hearing modes of the town. I don't know when final approval will be. It's rumored right now that it could be this spring. There's also rumored that they could do some scale back to some of these units. So there's a lot of unknowns around this yet. But Randy and I had discussed that we do need to be in talks about this with the entire committee and see for future planning. So this will be a topic going forward. Because I know that other towns, Ashby may have some additional units they're putting in, and Townsend as well may have some additional units. So we just need to do some forward thinking and planning. Did I cover it, Randy? Okay, go Randy.
Yeah, no, but basically, yeah, you covered as far as the town planners seem to think that approvals could be this next spring for both of those units. I don't know how long it might take to build once they do that, but that is definitely a wake-up call for us as far as looking at capacity within the district. Everything that has told us till now from a lot of the studies from 10 years ago and more recently is that our enrollment was leveling off or still going down just slightly. Having 180 units for affordable housing and another 40 for condos in another area, that could potentially be a lot of students coming into the district. I think we really need to kind of step back and take a look at how many students that might mean coming into the district, where we have the room, whether we have the capacity. And I think it needs to bring up, looking at AES, we have to make a decision on that building. And I think we truly need to know if these go through and other other towns' projects go through, do we need AES for capacity reasons to be able to house all the students and the special education programs that we've brought in-house effectively? It's a conversation I think we need to have sooner than later, being that we have to make that permanent decision on AES. Once we make that decision, we can't reopen the school, or it'd be extremely difficult at that point. And the MSB made it very, very clear that if we closed a building, that we would not be looked at for 15, 20 years for any additional building or additions to existing buildings to increase capacity, because we closed the school within that time frame. So I think we need to do some real analysis to take a look at that and discuss as a school committee.
All right, moving on to Townsend, Keenan and Randy.
Wendy, do you have anything? Because I have something, but
Go right ahead.
okay. The only thing we had referencing our last meeting, we had some bus issues between some Townsend Road construction going on. I followed up with Valerie Goodrich from the Townsend Select Board about that and about the process or whatnot. She got back to me rather promptly. We forwarded that on to Superintendent Morgan. We did not have a chance to converse about her response, but it seemed, according to her, it might have just been a simple miscommunication. I don't know if Superintendent Morgan has anything more to say about that, but that's the only thing from Townsend.
No, it does appear as though there was a miscommunication around that. So moving forward, I think we'll be okay, provided there's any additional road work happening in any of the towns.
All right.
And the only thing that I had just was a follow-up. Kim had requested the last time that I request a employment study from the town of Townsend. I have not gone forward with that, and I apologize. In the moment, I said, sure, when thinking about that I believe is out of our purview. That is the town budget. We have to have some trust going back and forth that they are managing their budget and giving us information the same way that they have to have that same confidence that we are managing our budget, unless we're going to go ahead and invite them into our budget at the same kind of level to ask for reports and analysis going forward. I don't think that is something that's appropriate to ask of the towns. I'm happy if you have another viewpoint on that and listen, and if you can change my mind, I would be happy to go back and ask.
Yeah, I'll speak to it, Randy, because I was going with the ask.
Yeah.
Somehow we need to figure out what what their ask is. Right. So they say that they're struggling for some funding. And the easiest way to figure out what they need for money for their staff is to figure out what they were planning on and what they actually have, what they're drawing on. So it's not like a staffing study. It's like where's the
it's
delta?
still asking about their budget. They told us they need $200,000. It's not our place to question where they need that money, whether it's for staffing or other things. It's not our place. We can choose to believe them and try and find the money, or we can choose to tell them we can't come up with it, but it's not our place to step in there and say, you don't need it for staffing, stop asking for it.
So is the number actually 200? Because I did not hear that in the meeting that I was in with the superintendent.
I don't have the exact number. When I was talking with Valerie, she was saying as little as 200,000 would help them out. I can talk with her and see if they have a more concrete number to present to the school committee.
Yeah, I think we just need something, and however they want to do it. Yeah, and I don't need to like split hairs on it, but I was trying to give them a path forward to figure out what they need. Because right now it doesn't seem clear. And so that to me was like, okay, if you do this and this, you can figure out where the delta is. because they had money left on the table as well. I just want to know what it is. And no one seems to be able to tell us that.
Okay, again, if they're not questioning the money that we have on the table.
Yeah.
We need to take them at their word on what they say they need. And that they have in their budget. I don't think it's our place to start diving into their budget.
Yeah. No, as a school committee, no, not necessarily, but as townspeople, yes, because what I would hate to see, Randy, is that they say we need 200 and it's 217 because they haven't done the math.
That
You
is
know what I
fine,
mean?
but that is also on them. We are
Yeah.
here as school committee and
Yes.
representing the district.
Yep, I
So.
agree. But if we could get a number,
Okay,
maybe they'll have it on Monday and Keenan will be there as well as Nancy and the superintendent and whomever else.
okay. I can certainly pass that along. That is certainly appropriate.
Randy, can you also ask them what they have planned for their buildings within, or building units
Yep.
within the next 2 to 3 years?
Yep, I can certainly ask that.
Okay. Anyone else?
Can I clarify what you mean by that, Lisa? Is
Like
what's
they're
that happening
affordable, yeah,
in
they're
front
affordable
of?
housing units and
Well,
things that they're
but I
planning.
think there's really two different questions of what they had to put on the books as lots available for MBTA versus
Okay.
what is actually a project filed for are two really separate. Like what's happening in Pepperell, those are 5 years with plans and engineers and meetings with planning board. Ours is just a vote at town meeting to designate a space.
Okay. And that's
so I
where
think-
you can help us as a committee to understand these things, Kim, because all of it, like the buildings going on and what is happening at that level is new to all of us, I would assume,
Yeah.
except for you.
Yeah. So I think that would be the question, Randy, that you would need is what has been filed to date.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Understood.
All right. Anyone else? It is 9:18. I think it is time to take a motion to adjourn.
I will so move.
Right. That was
Second
Keenan.
the
Do I have a
motion.
second? And Alexander
Oh,
seconded.
shoot. I
Oh.
have one more thing. I apologize.
Okay,
We
go,
didn't
Randy.
vote.
We didn't vote.
Just
I'll hold the vote. You
okay,
go.
just really quick. We have a policy on E&Ds or fiscal reserves that we were discussing in policy earlier today. It's a very big topic. We are working and I'm hoping to have a first reading coming to the school committee next meeting. It would be very good if people can go into it. It is a public document. It's also in the drive. Start to get familiar with it. It's not finalized yet. We are working on it, but the more you can familiarize yourself with it, the easier the conversations will be on it.
Randy, would this be something that you would pull out of your policy and put it up for a bigger discussion?
It will be brought to the full committee once we have a draft, and we will discuss it either at, as we're presenting it for a first reading. We can have those conversations and decide whether it goes forward as a first reading.
Okay. All right.
Thank you.
Now, everybody good? Ready to take a vote? Kim
Yes.
Craven,
Yes.
Keenan Francois,
Yes.
Carla Lima,
Yes.
Randy,
Yes.
Jackie White,
Yes.
Lisa Bloom,
Yes.
Alexander,
Yes.
and myself is yes. Good night, everyone. Thank you.
Night.